Welcome to Unpacked with Liat. Today I'm sitting with Laetitia Marwani. She is my childhood best friend. We grew up doing everything together. Our families were so intertwined. And the reason why I wanted to bring her on here is because our friendship kind of took an interesting ebb and flow kind of turn. We were very, very close growing up. We went to college together. And then after college, our lives just kind of had different roles. And as a result of that, our closeness kind of veered off. And then we found our way back to each other. So thank you, Laetitia, for being here.
I'm so
And
happy to be here. This is so exciting.
yeah, we're going to get right to it. Just go right in. So give a little bit of like a picture of like what it was like for our families growing up together, it being so intertwined, and how that also formed our friendship early on.
Yeah. So it's funny because when I think back to like some people in our lives, there are some people that I don't remember ever meeting. Like they were just in my life. And I think those were the friends that I met, like, from when I was 2 or 3. Like, I don't even know how old we were when our parents like met and when our parents
Yeah.
became friends. But in my mind, we must have been like 3.
I
Like
don't even
that's
remember meeting you.
I don't even know. Like I don't even know. For me, you were just always in
Like
my
you
life.
guys
You
are
were
just
really
always
present.
there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having siblings.
Yeah.
Like even that. I remember when my siblings were born. I don't remember meeting you. So that's how far back it goes.
Right.
And I also think like I think I can say the same for you. We didn't grow up with family nearby, cousins and grandparents and aunts and uncles,
Right.
and we didn't have like extended families. So for me, it was like your family and the friends that we had were my family. Like that was my community. Those were my friends. That's who I spent time with. That's who I went to houses, like,
Yeah. I think that's what our parents realized the lack. Like I know my mom talks about it all the time of like living away from family and how hard that is. And they like finally like realized like another foreigner and they know what I'm going through and they know what it's like to and it, like that commonality that they shared
yeah,
forged the bond. Usually like being a mom today, I have my friends that I've made separate from them having kids and you hope that your kids are friends with their kids. But then I have friends that I've become friends with because my kids are friends with their kids.
right.
And so I think that it just happened and it's so I think it's rare that the adults mesh and also the kids mesh. It was
That's so
just
true.
it was
Yeah,
just a norm. And that was I think that was really beautiful. And it was growing up as kids, like it wouldn't just be like me coming to your house for Shabbat to sleep over or you just coming to it'd be the whole family coming.
yeah, yeah.
Like there was like inside jokes and like the ways that like even like my brothers would like rag on your brothers, but like it wasn't, like it was just normal. Like it was just siblings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about that earlier, how like going to your Shabbat table, like I remember having to brace myself. Like, okay, they're gonna tease me. I know they're gonna tease me. I don't know what
Right.
they're gonna tease me about. They're gonna find something, and I just have to like I would tell myself like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, like
We are that kind of family. If we love you, we
I
make fun of you.
I know, but like it's like, and then once I got like to that point where I'm like, I can handle this, but it took some time. It was funny. Like, also, I'm the oldest, but I felt like I had older siblings, even though they were your
Right.
older siblings. So like, there was those moments where we got teased and like when we got pranked, and they would like find those points, and they were great at that.
We're experts. We're experts at that.
It was
Yeah.
so fun.
But then yeah, like we were very inseparable, like Vegas trips and like circus and
Yeah,
all these things, like we were inseparable, or Houston, or that like we really did everything together. Like there I don't remember there being like a family trip that we were driving up on winter break somewhere and you guys weren't coming with us. Like it
so
wasn't an
true.
option.
Yeah,
But then obviously we grew and then there was elementary school and there was a little bit of a divide, right? You went to one
yeah,
school,
yeah,
I went to another school, and then I came to that school 2 years later. So then we were together from 6th grade through 12th grade, and
hmm
then we both went to seminary, and then we got back when we went to college together.
yeah,
And then college happened and I met Lenny and I got married and you were still finishing up in college. And then
yeah.
from college, you were in the dating world. Then you went to Florida, New York. You did your whole thing
There's lots of
and did lots of things. And I was on the married having kids track, and you were on degrees, dating,
yeah,
social life track.
yeah.
And that's kind of why I wanted to sit here today, because I think adult friendships are so hard. And there is something so beautiful in childhood friendships that
Hmm.
you know me to my core,
Yeah.
even in a way that people who know me today and they see the 2.0 version of me of like, I've
Hmm.
worked on myself, I've done therapy, I've done all those things, but you know such a deep part of me. And I want to talk about how like there was nothing wrong in the friendship. There was nothing like
Right,
I did something and like you were mad at me, or you
right,
did something and I was mad at you. It just happened to be the phases of life
right.
that we were in. And they're just, I don't want to say there wasn't relatability, but to some extent there wasn't relatability.
Yeah, no, totally. It makes sense.
Yeah,
And I think that even at that time that you got married, I mean, I loved being roommates in college. That was so fun.
it was very fun.
And I love that, like when you were dating Lenny and engaged and everything, that like I was still part of that just because we were roommates and like, I was happy that I was like still able to like be part of that process for you. But I think that at that point in our lives, a lot of our friends were getting engaged and getting married. And that was also at the point that Yo and I had broken up, my husband now, when we had first met first time around.
Hmm.
Um, and so that year, that 2015, 2016, that like whole year was like a blur for me because I was kind of
Right.
in survival mode. And I just remember like, and it wasn't even that feeling of, oh, my friends are all getting married and I'm like here going through the breakup with the guy I thought I was going to marry. It wasn't so much that. It was just more like get through this, like
Right.
do whatever it takes to just get through,
Right. Just push through.
just push through. And it was so I do remember that time just being like kind of underwater. And I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people realize that. I don't think a lot of friends realize that because I was very quiet about it.
I don't think you even realized it until later either.
That might be true. I think I was also just like, you just got to keep moving. Just do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And I think that affected my relationships in a way where if I didn't have the bandwidth for it, I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. And it wasn't even like a conscious decision.
Yeah.
It was more like, the friends that were with me and in front of me, like that was the easiest. And then anyone who kind of moved on, it was like making that like conscious effort was a lot. But I think that overall, like, right, that was just the very beginning. But then it was like a few years after that, you were in New York for a bit, then you moved to LA. And part of like being single is there's only like so like you have to split your energy so many ways, right? Like you said, you're dealing with like job and career, degrees, social life, dating, navigating that world. And I think like I said before, it's not a conscious decision. It's more like if people are not like in your life, like in your circle, immediate circle, in your space, it's much harder to maintain those
Yeah.
relationships because they just
And the
require a lot.
distance and the distance
Yeah,
also didn't really help, because then
exactly.
you were in New York and then I was in LA,
Right.
and I at the time was also going through my own stuff, my own
Yeah.
breaking points and my own challenges and struggles that I also kind of disconnected, but it wasn't like, I'll put it this way, like we weren't in touch, that we felt the disconnect.
Right.
Like after college, it kind of was just like she's doing her life, I'm doing my life, and we both were going through really hard times, but we
Hmm.
weren't aware of it because we weren't in touch like before those things happen, you know?
Right. And in hindsight, I think about this also. I think I mentioned this to you in the past, where now that I'm married, Baruch Hashem, and I have my kids and everything, I remember that when I was single and when I did have a relationship with my married friends and the ones that were um, like in New York, some of them were childhood friends, and I would go to them for Shabbat. I remember like Shabbat morning sleeping in until like their husbands would come home from shul. And in like my single mind, I'm like, whatever, Shabbat morning, like I'm sleeping in.
Right.
Like all the other days, I wake up early and I go to work, But I was so in my own mind, like I was thinking back one Shabbat morning when I was with my kids at home alone, and I was like, oh, it'd be so nice to have a friend now. And then I was like, I was that friend to some people, and I didn't get up Shabbat morning to hang out with them. And like, I just had this feeling of like regret of like I could have been so much more helpful or like so much more aware of like what they're going through, what that means to like be up early with your kids Shabbat morning or while they were postpartum, like having a friend offer like, hey, do you want me to come over and just help you? And like I was so disconnected from what it meant to
But
be
I think it also
married,
goes back to you
pregnant.
having a different frame of reference. You were living the
Yeah,
single life, so you didn't know what that felt like yet. And now
right.
that you're married, you can reflect back on like, oh, okay. And then you can now put yourself in the position to be that person for somebody else. But you didn't have that frame of reference. Why should you assume that like it's weird to sleep in until the meal starts? Like that you go to somebody's house and they want to hang out with you and they want to talk to you. Like, why should you think that?
Like I was still old enough to be like, hey, like put yourself in your friend's shoes. But I guess, yeah, I was so and I don't know, maybe other singles like experience this too, but like you're kind of so in your own mind. You feel like being single is so heavy sometimes that like you think, oh, being married is like, everything's fine. Like, well, you have your life, whatever, you have your husband, and then you realize like, no, there are challenges there too, and like having a friend there for you like makes the world of a
Yeah.
difference.
There are challenges in raising kids. There are challenges in being married. There are challenges
Yeah,
in navigating adult friendships. There are
for
challenges
sure.
in your own personal growth. There's challenges in being single. Like, there's challenges in all of them, and there's beauty in all
Yeah,
of them. It just
for
matters on
sure.
like your perspective on it. And again, you can't. That's why they say like you don't judge a person until you're in their place because you don't know what that's like, and you don't understand that you don't have that frame of reference. So there's no way for you to know I shouldn't have spoken about this topic like in front of her husband. Like you don't know that until
Right.
you might get married and then you develop that sensitivity to that topic or to whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, I can't beat myself up over it, but I do think in hindsight, like, it just makes me realize that, the stage you are in life is really all you know. So you're so focused on it, right?
Hmm.
You really have to step out of your position to put yourself in someone else's place and like understand where they're coming from and be there for them in a way that you might not even know like how, but just to show up. It takes awareness. So in hindsight,
Yeah.
I feel like I've gained that awareness, which allows me now to think like other friends that I have who are not in the same stage as me, like how can I be supportive to them or still maintain that connection even though we're in different places.
Yeah. And I think that that's a strength that you have because you lived that single life for a while. And it's something that like you and I have spoken about saying that like I remember one time you came to me for Shabbat and you were like, you don't understand. I said, you're right, I don't understand. And I kind of had this like jaded view of like what it should be like or how you should
Mm,
act. And I don't understand and I don't have that frame of reference. But that pain that you went through, that loneliness, is the exact thing now that gives you the strength and gives you the awareness and gives you that frame of reference to be able to support people in that same position, to be able to help them, show them the beauty or the things that you were able to do as a result of being single, or the degrees, or the vacations, or the traveling, or,
yeah,
there two things can coexist. It could be really lonely, but you could also be soaking up the moments knowing that like when I get married, like I'm settling down and like I did my traveling or I did my
yeah,
degrees. Like I don't need to juggle degrees, marriage, children,
right.
all of that and what. I feel like with our friendship, I think it was like you a few times actually, like maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, you came to visit me in LA. And then right before you and Eliel got back together. So was that like 5 years, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, that was literally right before. That was in
Right before
January
you were here. You came here
2020.
twice. You came here 3 times. You came here 3 times.
Yeah,
And we like it was never weird for you to like reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm coming to LA. Like it wasn't ever that
yeah,
kind of friendship going back to that foundation in childhood. But I think that when you did come, I noticed like how much we did drift apart and like how much
yeah,
like we could sit and we could talk for hours as if no time passed, but then it didn't continue beyond that. It
right.
didn't like, hey, how are you? Like, thinking of you, miss you like once every few months,
Right.
if that. And then you kind of came and I was like, oh wow, like we're not as close as I like as we used to be. And then And then in the last, I would say 6 months, we like really picked up again.
Hmm.
And we started reconnecting again through very long voice notes because
Yeah.
I think I started posting and then you reached out to me and then I was sharing
Yeah.
with how like I was kind of going through this like new transition in life, trying to figure out what I want to do. And you're like, no way, me too. And we
Yeah.
kind of rebonded over that and shared support for each other over that, like encouraging, like, don't be scared, go ahead and do it. And you would say the same thing to
Yeah.
me. And I think that that was just beautiful, like going back to the foundation of the childhood friendships, that it
Yeah.
wouldn't happen if that foundation wasn't there.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the beauties of childhood friendships is that you, even if you drift apart, there's still this part of the other person, like you said before, that you know, like very deeply. It's kind of like you know their goodness, you know their innocence, you know their pureness, like as a child, you know, like you still see the child
Yeah.
in them. You
Yeah.
still see like the potential. You see like you know all those parts without all the things that like life happens and kind of changes you and weighs you down in some ways, or you know we become more closed up with other people, and so I was just excited. I remember when you were posting things and you were telling me like, you know, things, the ideas you had. It's kind, I like, I just want to see you succeed. Like, it's just that
Right.
feeling of like, you know, say you have a family member, a sibling, and like you just like, I just want to cheer you on. Yeah, I think I felt the same from you when I was telling you like, you know, I this is what I'm thinking and these are my ideas and whatever. There's like some people who you would say those things to and you're not sure like, you know, how they'll be received. Are they going to judge you? Are they really supporting you? Are they secretly jealous? Are they
Right.
going to go and talk about you? Whatever, you know, like you're like you don't know. You like
Right.
you don't know. And when it's someone new or when it's someone that doesn't know you so well, but there's something about, you know,
The
that there's
childhood
like a
friendship. I think it's
safety.
also hard as adults to navigate new friendships, especially if I mean, you happen to live in the community that we grew up in. So, but there's a lot of the people that we grew up with are not there and new people are in. And so they've kind of taken over, and you have to navigate adult friendships. And even for me here in LA, like navigating adult friendships, I didn't know anybody here. I had to make
Yeah.
friends here and I had to find connections. And some friendships I had, you know, like the connection right away and it made easy. And some connections, it was really hard. And there was some points where like I thought I was really close to somebody and then I got hurt by them or whatever
Yeah.
it was. But I think that's the challenge in navigating the adult friendships, is that, like you said, a child is pure. They don't even know like their misgivings or their insecurities or
Right.
anything. They're tamim, they're innocent.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
then as an adult, like they become jaded because they have a different lens of glasses on when they become an adult and when they're also in their marriages and raising kids and the challenges that they have and things that they face, that it kind of it is. And I think that like that's what becomes very hard with navigating that, is because you crave that closeness, and there is the concept of the fact that there's physical distance. It creates distance, time
Hmm.
zones, ability to see each other. There's the great phone conversations that you and I could have, or I could FaceTime you or WhatsApp 6-minute voice notes.
Yeah.
But there's a element to that friendship that in person, you know, and I think that that
Hmm.
becomes really challenging to try and navigate that and kind of like grow up again. Like you're in the classroom and like, who am I going to sit next to? And who's going to be
Yeah.
at my table? And who should I invite for
Yeah.
Shabbos? And
Yeah.
it gets really hard.
It is really hard, and it's hard also because um you kind of depend on that, like, oh, you already know me, right? Like when you're with friends that know you already, it's easier to build a relationship because you don't have to like teach people who you are. You don't have to like show who you are. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to talk about yourself. Like you just are. You just continue.
Right.
When it's someone new, it's like you're feeling them out, and then you are also trying to, you know, allow them to connect to you, and you have to decide like what parts of yourself are you going to let them connect to, and
Right.
you know, there's a vulnerability that comes along with it, and there's risk, and you know, for some people, it's also like for couples, like you want to invite them for Shabbat, and maybe you get along with the wife, but the husbands don't get along, or vice versa, or
Right.
whatever, you know, and it's
That's
hard to
hard.
find couples, friends, and or do our kids get along?
Right. And I think that's really hard also because when you're a child, like you've made those friendships and that's meshed, but then you also like not everybody's going to be your bestie, and I think that's what I've learned
Hmm.
as an adult is some friendships, they're not going to know everything about me. They're going to know fun Liat, and some
Yeah.
friendships are going to know deep Liat, and some friendships are going to know Shabbat Liat, and some friendships are going to know mom Liat. Like they're
Hmm.
not going to know all parts of me, and I think that's something that I've had to learn, and that's where I've gotten hurt is when like I go all in on a friendship and I want that closeness in every single way, but sometimes people aren't capable of that, so you have to learn how to navigate that as well. And then
Right.
there's the unspoken thing of like if you don't like their parenting style, that's really hard. It's very
Their
hard.
parenting style, yeah, yeah, it is. It
Or
is
like their
really
kid
hard.
is just a really challenging child.
Yeah.
And they're just like, the parents are like, he's so cute. And you're like, no, that wasn't cute. He literally just smacked my child in the face. Like, that was not cute. That was not funny. Oh, you wanted the candy. No, it wasn't funny. And sometimes, like, I think that the lioness, like, mom protector comes out and you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work for me anymore.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
I'll go out to lunch with you, but like, our kids are not going to be getting together anymore.
Or you have the opposite issue. The other issue is like, their kids are so much older, so they don't get along. Like the kids are not the same
Right.
age, but like you guys would get along great,
Right. And
and,
that's where I
and
think like when I
allowing.
try to invite people over for Shabbos meals, like I'm like, oh, but their kids are so much older than my kids. Like my kids are gonna
Mhm.
be so bored. Or like I mean actually they're not. They love when older kids come over, it's like a role model, you know? Like it's like
Yeah.
I think about us when like high school kids used to come over and like I was in elementary school. But like I think about like those older kids that are coming and I'm like, poor kid, like they're so bored here. Like their parents are forcing them to come here, you know?
Yeah.
And also I think for me like navigate like I think once you're an adult you realize age is really just a number,
Hmm.
and I have friends who are literally, I might get killed for this, but like are a decade or 2 decades older than me, and it just
Yeah.
works, you know?
Yeah.
Like I have friends and they're like, you're a baby, and I get those jokes all the time, like you're a baby, you don't know anything about life yet, how old are you, 25? And I'm like, go away, because most of the people in our community like have older kids, they have teenagers, they
Hmm.
have kids who are in college, but like my kids are like my oldest child, her grade, I'm one of the younger parents because all the other kids are either like last in line or second to
Uh-huh.
last or something like that
Uh-huh.
within the family. So it's interesting to see that as well and to not get hung up on age, because if you vibe and
Yeah.
you match, so what? Who
I'm like
cares?
I'm like the other on the other side of that where I'm the older parent, where like people who have kids my age are like in their young 20s or your earlier 20s, and then I'm in like early 30s. So when
Right.
people meet me and they see two little kids, they assume I'm like, oh, you're 23, 24, 25, whatever. No, I'm 32. And then the
Right.
people who are my age have like, four or five older kids, and one's in third grade, fifth grade, whatever. They're older already. And then, and they won't blink at me because they think I'm so much younger, or like our kids are just not on the same stage. So I think that's been a challenge when I got married, was like, where do I fit? Like I could
Right,
obviously,
because
like
your
you said,
maturity level is like at a normal level, but
yeah,
then because you're a newlywed, you might get roped with like the 21-year-olds.
right. Like my younger brother is 25, and like that just puts into perspective, like being friends with people even younger than that. Like I have NCSYers who are married and with kids,
Right.
and like they're even young. And it, like you said, age is just a number. So like I really try not to get hung up on that.
Hmm.
But it definitely has been a struggle. Like also finding friends who are like a little bit more mature, a little bit more on my stage or age, or kind of relate to where I'm coming from or what I went through. Like I didn't get married at 21. Being friends with someone who
Right.
got married at 21 versus being friends with someone who, went through the dating world or maybe got married a little earlier or later. Like it's just a completely different
Mm.
it's a different relationship. Neither
So
is better or worse. It's just different. And it's like figuring out like which ones do you want to invest in and which ones do you really need, and what's, like,
yeah.
um,
So I want to take it back to how we kind of ebbed and flowed in the friendships. What would you say to somebody like now that you have the understanding and the clarity that like you were going through this phase and it was going to happen for you later in life? Again, nothing specifically happened to pull us apart, but was some part of you feeling that I wouldn't understand what you're going through because I'm living the married life? And if yes, like what
Um,
would you say to yourself or to somebody who is a single and is looking for advice on how to relate to their married friends?
so yeah, I did felt that some of my married friends didn't really understand. Some really tried. Some really like, really made an effort to stay current and ask me and try to understand and like stay involved and and I always appreciated that. But I do feel that like you're always as a single, I felt scared of like being judged of like, yeah, you don't understand because it's easy for people to say like, oh, you're too picky, or like, oh, like there's so many guys out there and like there's nothing wrong with you, like why aren't you married yet?
Right.
Like what's the problem? Like, they like, and that's nature, as human nature. Human nature wants to find reasons for things and wants to make
Right, but I
patterns.
also think that because like I'll share for myself, like at a certain point I was one of those people saying that stuff to you. And going back now, I'm like I really didn't understand, but why did I say it? Reflecting back is because I was uncomfortable. I
Hmm.
felt like I needed to say something to like smooth it over for you or make it better. And like why didn't I just shut up? You know?
I don't remember you saying that honestly, but like,
I mean, I like to think of myself as
yeah,
a very thought out person when I
yeah,
speak. I don't just blab.
yeah,
Um, but I think that again, going back to the closeness that we have, like with
mhm,
siblings, like sometimes you say things and you're like, that was so dumb, or like, wow, it was
yeah,
so mean. Like, why did I say that? And so I think when after you left my house, right before you met Eliyahu that last time, um, I was like, wow, like, and I remember my parents were here and they're like, stop,
yeah,
like, you don't like, you don't understand what she's going through. Like, you don't know what it's like, stop hounding her, stop this, stop that. I'm like, no, because I love her. Like, I want her
yeah,
to, I'm
yeah.
trying to push her. I'm trying to like get to the bottom of like what she's saying. It didn't matter. I didn't need
No,
to get to the bottom of what
but
you were saying.
still, the conversation showed that you cared. You know what I mean? Like that's like I didn't take it in any way that was like, oh, she just doesn't get it, and I was upset. Like I
Mhm.
remember being emotional. Actually, I remember, but like this comes back to like the Shabbat tables when we were kids. Like I always
Right.
feel but yeah, we were having a conversation with your parents and with Lenny, like that conversation we had at your house at the beginning of what was it, 2022 of January when the last time I came to LA. Also went out. I went out with like two guys in a span of like 5 days or something when I was at your
Right.
house. And I had also reached out to a guy that like had told me if you're ever in LA, like we had a phone date, didn't work out, but he told me like because of distance. But everything else seems fine. So he's like, if you're ever in LA, like let me know, and maybe we'll meet or something like that. So I
Right.
like took the plunge and I reached out to him and he said he was seeing someone. So like it was just, as a single you really put yourself out there over and over and over and like people don't see how much effort you're really trying to make and like how much you're really like nobody wants it as much as you do. That's the reality. So you're gonna
Right.
do whatever it takes. So I'm like,
Because we also only see the external. So what we see is
exactly.
no ring on your finger, no
Yeah.
committed relationship. So like, but we don't see the multiple phone calls from Shadchans, the
Yeah.
multiple dates, the multiple outfit changes, or like
Yeah.
back and forth. Like, I don't want to go out with him again. Okay, he wants to go out with you again. Maybe
Yeah.
let me think about like we don't see that part. We only see the external.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to say, well, you're not putting in enough effort, or you're not working hard, or it doesn't really, you're being too
Right.
picky.
Right.
We don't see that, like, this guy just gave
So
you a bad vibe, you know?
yeah, exactly. So when we were sitting in the living room and stuff, and I was like trying to find the words to explain like why it didn't work out with this guy and why I think it was three guys that I had met while I was there. It was somebody you guys had tried to set me up with kind of
Hmm.
informally, and then there was someone else that your parents tried to set me up with, and then some other person that I think a shotgun I don't even remember, but all of them just didn't work out for different reasons. And I just remember feeling so defeated. Like before we had this conversation, I remember going to like um, the Santa Monica Pier. I went alone, and I hate doing things alone. But like that was part of being single, pushing myself. Like if you want to go to the beach, no one's going with you. Go. Like just go.
Right.
I remember going and telling Hashem like I'm done. Like I'm done. I've done everything I could. And now, I'm not the one who's gonna be like overcompensating anymore. You know, I just felt like I was at a point where I was pushing myself to the point of like I didn't have it in me at all. So by the time
Right.
I got to that conversation with your parents and Lenny and everyone, I was like very much at a breaking point. But like, how are you supposed to say that to someone, you know? But there's no way for you to know. So I didn't blame anyone. I didn't hold it against you guys. But I do remember at some point, and I'm like still grateful to Lenny because I felt like very seen in that moment where he was like, guys, I think she knows what she wants. It just hasn't happened yet. Something like that. He said something like that.
Right. Yeah, I
I
remember
just
him
remember
saying,
like feeling this relief of like, thank you. Like that's all like I'm trying to say. Like there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing I haven't done yet. There's nothing that like I
right,
can do more of. Like it's literally just it's Hashem and his plan. Like that's all it comes down to. So I think from us to tell a single, like, you know, your friends really they want the best for you and they want to see you happy. They just don't know necessarily how to help you. Like they just maybe some of them haven't been in your shoes. And then on the other hand, you know, for someone who's married, and who's hasn't necessarily experienced the single life but have single friends, I would say like trust them. Just trust them. If they tell you like someone's not for them, they know. Like they know what's best for them. And if they tell you, even if they don't have a reason that sounds legitimate to you, like a lot of it is vibes and energy. Like you weren't sitting there on that date. You don't know what it's like to be talked like you know, it's like anyone else. You meet somebody in Kiddush at a Shabbat Kiddush, and you're like, either you vibe with that person, or you didn't. Either you were able to hold a conversation for more than a minute, or you weren't. You know, like, and
right,
no one's gonna hold it against you. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, if they tell
right.
you yes or no, like, just trust that what they're saying
Don't
is,
speak on what you don't know.
yeah, and just be there to support them. Like, you just,
And
and
I can relate to that. Like I remember in
yeah,
Chicago, people were trying to set me up when we were in college. They were trying to set me up and like they'd be like, oh my gosh, like you're a quarter Persian. I'm gonna set you up with this Persian guy. And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, oh, what's your resume? And I'm like, I don't even know how to make a resume. Like I don't have a resume. And like I remember
remember
like
that.
on the spot, like I was like, could somebody help me? Like I need to make a resume. Made a resume. The guy came to pick me up from somebody's house in Chicago. They
Yeah.
don't live there anymore, but came to pick me up from the and he like came with flowers and he came to the door
Wow.
and the host opened the door and I just like walked up to the door and I saw him and I was just like, no, no. Like there was no explanation. Just
Yeah.
it
You-
wasn't there. Like I was just
yeah.
like the guy didn't even open his mouth. He didn't even say a word yet. I was just like, no, no. And then I went out with somebody else and like we had a great time, but I was just like, also, no, you know, like sometimes they walk up to the door, you see them, they don't even say a word. And for no reason, you just say no. Obviously, I'm nice and I went out with him and
Mhm.
whatever, but like, and then
Yeah.
this other guy that like I thought was going good, but then it just there was no depth there. Like
Yeah.
it was fun. You'd be a
Yeah.
great friend, but and so I think it's kind of maybe relating it back. I think sometimes when you're in such a different stage of life,
Mhm.
and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that like because dating was so in the rear view mirror for me and for a
Yeah.
lot of people in your circle at that time,
Mhm.
reminding them of like what it felt like to date. Cause like you said, we're so stuck in our own that
Yeah.
like the challenges that I'm having in my marriage or raising children is what is in front of me. And I'm not remembering those
Mhm.
times. Yeah, that I wouldn't say that we grieved a friendship. I would say that I'm grateful that we're back in each
Mhm.
other's lives now. And again, like I don't think there was this awareness of we're not friends anymore or whatever. It kind of just ebbed and flowed. What I would want to leave listeners with is friendships are there for phases and seasons of your life for
Mhm.
whatever reasons.
Yeah.
And so when I was married and having children and you were dating and getting your degrees and traveling and doing,
Mhm.
NCSY and all these things, we didn't align. It didn't
Yeah.
work. Nothing happened that I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
she's so mean. She doesn't talk to me, or nothing happened on your end. But I think if you see that a friendship is kind of ebbing and flowing and not as close anymore, I wouldn't put it on the other person or say, like, oh, they don't like me anymore or they don't need me anymore.
And I also think there's power in reaching out. Like sometimes we just forget, you know, just because people are not. in our frame, you know, in our day-to-day lives that like sometimes we forget. But when you think of that person, you have warm feelings and fond memories. And sometimes all you need is like a quick text, be like, hey, what's up? I'm thinking about you. How's it going? You know? And I think that goes a long way. And I would say, even with some of our other childhood friends, like there have been times in my life where there have been other times in our lives where, you know, we found ourselves in the same space again, and we naturally gravitated back to each other because they're just comfort, they're familiar, and they're like,
Right.
you know. So I think, yeah, you know, if you think of someone and you're like, okay, they're not really in my life anymore as much or whatever, like just reaching out goes a very long way, even if it's not gonna turn into a whole phone conversation or like, you know, you meet up or whatever. But just to stay relevant. Another thing I just thought of, maybe we can learn a lesson from childhood friendships is that when you're a child, you're just playing and you're not, you know, jaded and you're not vulnerable. Yeah, we're just playing and like there's no thought process. You know what I mean? There's nothing like, is this the right friend for me? And you know, we're not thinking and overthinking it. We're just playing and we're friends and there's this natural connection and there's this joy and then there's this innocence and it's what if we borrowed from that to make friends now? Like what if we
Mm.
kind of put ourselves back into that child space where it's like, hey, I'm just curious. Like there's another person in front of me. Like let's
I
play.
think it goes back to what we were saying. Like the lenses are different. That
Yeah.
you're not as naive as you were when you were a child.
Right.
Like it's like all of a sudden when like you're an adult and you're like, that's why my mom was going to the supermarket so many times at night. You're like, why would she come back with her hair wet? Like, and you're like, okay, you know, like you figure it out, and you're just like, you know, and I think that like, yeah, that's a funny free like reference, but you have different things, and I think it's a matter of perspective and what you're willing to put your time and effort on and what you're willing to focus on. It's like there
Yeah.
was I just saw Charlene Amanoff talk about something on Instagram where there was like a study of a Japanese professor who showed them like a piece of white oak. There's a little black dot in the middle, and he kept saying like, "What do you guys see? What do you guys see?" And they all focused on this black dot. One said they thought it was a spider. One said they thought it was this kind of bug. One said it was part of the oak. It was part of, and he said, "I don't understand. Like 99.9% of this board is white oak, but you guys are choosing to focus on the 0.01%." So I think in adult friendships, of the hurt, reality is people come with
Yeah.
baggage,
Yeah.
some more than others, some heavier than others, but people come with baggage. And as a result, I think we scan a little bit more. I think we are a little bit more careful.
Mhm.
But with that being said, I like what you said about having like child's play, you know, just going
Yeah.
into it with a little bit more innocence, a little bit more tmimut, a little bit
Yeah.
more. And I think going back to what I said of like
Exactly.
recognizing that not every friendship is going to serve you fully. There's going to be that
Mhm.
parts of you that it serves.
Right.
And with that, I want to say, Leticia, like, thank you so much for this conversation. I really
Thank
enjoyed every
you.
minute of it.
You too.
I think that there's a lot here, and like I feel like we could talk about a lot of things for hours. I love that
Mhm.
my child just decided to join our podcast. And thank you for making the time. I think this was great.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy to be part of this, and I'm excited for where this will go, and I'm proud of all you've been doing, and yeah, maybe we'll continue that slacha.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Leticia.
Yeah, you're so welcome.